Welcome back to the University of Life and this course, the 12 Loves. And we're now on to love number 4. So just a quick review. Remember, we covered attraction, the birthplace of love, then invested love, that when you pour yourself and your attention and affection and whatever into something, your sense of self expands to include that, and you care about its and happiness, well-being, and growth. And then we covered self-love, which is really applying that same concept to yourself, along with some of its difficulties, especially in the modern world. And now we're on to number 4. And number 4 is also another example of invested love, just applied a little bit different way. So in a way it's the same thing, but it's worth mentioning. And it's called divine love. And divine love has 2 definitions to it, by the way. The first method, I almost considered calling this one universal love, and that explains the first definition. But I chose divine because then I get to fit 2 definitions in there. So the first definition is that you take that invested love about caring about the well-being, happiness, and growth, and movement toward potential, and you apply it universally to like everything, and also the fact that you're willing to do something about it. Expend some of yourself in behalf of that happiness, well-being, and growth. And you'll find one of the great things about this, about universal love, is that it can be a lot easier to love everybody, everywhere, all at once, than to love one individual somewhere. Because with one individual, it becomes very clear when you've got to invest, and sometimes suffer a little bit for that person. Whereas you turn your mind outward to like the universe or everybody in the world and be like, I want everyone to be happy. That's kind of easier. It's not bad necessarily. It makes you feel good, and it trains your brain to be more loving. So by all means, do that. But sometimes it's easier because you don't necessarily have to do something about it. And here's an example that kind of illustrates it. So I've been on my county search and rescue team for 21 years now. And we'll rescue people. Usually it's just they went up and they had an accident, they got lost, they broke their leg. It's a bummer, right? Sometimes people are like unprepared, like climbing a 7,000-foot mountain in flip-flops. We're like, yeah, that wasn't necessarily the best judgment. You didn't bring water with you. Things like that are common. But regardless of whether it was the people's fault or just stuff, bad stuff happens. You get out there, things will eventually fall apart. Some entropy going on. If it gets on the news, invariably there's somebody in the comments who makes a comment like this and be like, what was the person doing outside in the first place? Like, really? Like, it's really beautiful out there and it's really good for you. Like, you should do it. It sounds like you're suffering. Maybe you should go for a hike too. But if we ever rescue a dog, oh my goodness, nobody's complaining. They're like, you are an angel. God bless you people. You're the best. So much praise. I have a viral video on my other main YouTube channel about this, and everyone just loves dogs so much because dogs are easy to love, right? It doesn't require the same kind of understanding and patience and investment that it takes to love a complex human being. So universal love, sometimes it's easier to do that. And sometimes people, I think, get it a little bit wrong when they say, they love everything and they love nature and they love the rocks and the whales and stuff. And it's great, those things. I love rocks. I love whales. Who doesn't? But if you love, everything like that, but you're really angry at people and you're really judgy and not helpful, I don't think you're really doing it. I think there's something a little bit off with that. So don't only do universal love, like you've got to apply it on personal basis as well for that to be really legit. Otherwise, I think you're kind of missing the point. You're getting some enjoyment out of it, or maybe you can hold it to other people, like justification, like self-justification. Like, I love everybody. Whales are great, and you're bad for throwing plastic in the ocean where whales might choke on it, And of course, you're right. Don't throw plastic in the ocean, of course. But anyway, it's kind of like, if for universal love, if you don't love all the individuals as well, you're definitely not doing it right. So if you want to do universal love, do it. By all means, please, all except for the last chapter of this, do them. But do it right by making sure you love people and you're being supportive of their well-being and happiness as well. The second, oh, by the way, also, the first reason why this can also be called divine love is it really explains God's motives, or at least, open your mind to the possibility that I'm right on this. I believe it. You can think whatever you want. You're welcome to have any opinion you want to have. So I know some people who look at the suffering in the world and they say, I cannot believe in a God who's omnipotent, like you say, who allows that to happen. It's tough to understand, isn't it? I mean, you're like, why don't you help them? But when you understand invested love, seeing your potential, our potential, and wanting us to grow toward it, it offers some possibilities. For example, there's the little story where some guy dies and he goes before God and he says, do you even know what's going on down there? There's suffering, there's crime, there's poverty, sickness. Why didn't you send help? To which God replies, I did. I sent you. So when you see these bad things going out in the world, if we go and help and you become more loving, that helps you to grow. So maybe there is some purpose beyond that we can see. It's like, here's the possibility that we're all the kindergartner who doesn't want to go to school. We're like, I don't want to go. And your parent lovingly, wisely says, go to school anyway, right? You'll get over it. You'll grow. It'll be good for you. And besides, I can't take you any more of you today in this tantrum. So I'm going to pawn you off on your teacher to deal with this. And hopefully you'll see your best friend and you'll be happy in 5 minutes anyway. So that's a good explanation of possibly how to reconcile all the good and evil in the world. And if you're interested in that topic, by the way, you've got to read the most insightful book I've ever read on this, C.S. Lewis, The Problem of Pain. He deals with it in so much intricacy, but it's so simple. It's very readable, very interesting. Highly recommend it. Okay, I mentioned that there are two possible definitions for divine love, and one is just taking that invested love and applying it to everything in the universe, or at least everyone, or however you want to limit it. The second one is, some of you have probably experienced this, believers, whatever, and you've felt this before, like this divine presence of glory and power, and it's transformative, right? If you let it soak into you enough, it heals your wounds and gives you courage and strength, and it's really empowering. It's really beautiful, the most beautiful thing in the world. So maybe people who are to some degree like this, like they're so loving, you can't walk into their presence and be seen by them and not just feel like you just got a hug. Like you're okay, like everything's going to be all right, like somebody cares about you, and just gives you, peace. So it's a beautiful thing. I hope you all aim to become that person, and I hope when you recognize that people are like that you appreciate that for them, and just help encourage that to be so. All right, so there's our discussion on divine love, love number 4. In our next video, we'll jump on to number 5, and now we're going to jump on to not just another application of invested love, but something that's very different. And when people hear the word love, this is maybe the one that comes to mind first. Romantic love. And boy, we have a lot to say about that as well. So I'll see you in the next video. Till then, love you. Be your best self.